Hello everyone and welcome back to Hit the Apex. I'm Charlie and today we have a race reaction to the 2022 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix with the full name of the Formula 1 Rolex Grand Premio Dell made in Italy, Dell Emilia Romagna 2022 at the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari. For the 2022 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. So we'll get straight to it then, starting with FP1. So FP1 was a wet session with Leclerc and Sainz taking a 1-2 for Ferrari, Verstappen, Magnussen in the Haas in P4, Schumacher P5, Perez, Alonso, Vettel, Tsunoda, Russell, Bottas, Gasly, Ocon, Norris, Ricciardo, Stroll, Albon, Hamilton, Guan Yu Zhou, and Nicholas Latifi. That was the lineup for FP1. With round 4 of the 2022 season coming to Imola, Italy. The sprint returned for the first time this season, meaning there was only one practice session before qualifying. Charles Leclerc topped a wet FP1 with an incident-packed session, 3 spins for Leclerc, while Norris nearly beached himself in the gravel. So then we move on to qualifying. Verstappen put it on pole with Leclerc second, Norris third, Magnussen fourth, Alonso, Ricciardo, Perez, Bottas, Vettel, and Sainz rounding up the top 10, with Q3 having some being Inter's weather. Some people went on to Inters in Q2 as well and in Q1. So it was a wet session once again with Russell, Schumacher, Hamilton, Guan Yu Zhou, and Lance Stroll being knocked out in Q2, and in Q1, Tsunoda, Gasly, Latifi, Ocon, and Albon getting knocked out. Verstappen takes pole in a heavily disrupted qualifying. I think there was 5 red flags in the end. Eliminated in Q1 was Tsunoda, Gasly, Latifi, Ocon, and Albon. In Q2 was Russell, Schumacher, Hamilton, Guan Yu Zhou, and Lance Stroll. Alex Albon didn't set a time in Q1 after a brake fire derailed his running, and Carlos Sainz crashed out in Q2 as the rain returned. The qualifying stat then: 5 red flags in qualies, the most since this knockout format was introduced in 2006. 5 different teams were in the top 5 positions as well. So that rounds out qualifying, and then on to FP2. George Russell actually went quickest in FP2 with Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Alonso, Sainz, Verstappen, Tsunoda, Gasly, Guan Yu Zhou, Alex Albon, Magnussen, Schumacher, Lance Stroll, Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon, Nicholas Latifi, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, and Valtteri Bottas, rounding out the top, rounding out FP2. And then the FP2 overview. Sprint returned on the same day as FP2, of course. Verstappen secured the P1 starting slot yesterday. Yesterday's qualifying also saw a crash for Carlos Sainz, who will line up P10 in the starting grid for the sprint. The sun was out in FP2. George Russell went quickest. Valtteri Bottas, Ricciardo, and Norris all suffered mechanical woes. So on to the sprint. Big up Chelsea fan in the chat as well. Hope you're well, mate. On to the sprint. Verstappen and Leclerc went first and second. Verstappen gained 8 points from the sprint. Leclerc gained 7. Neither of them lost or gained any positions from the starting grid. Perez gained 4 positions to get third and 6 points. Sainz gained 6 to get 5 points in fourth. Norris actually lost 2 positions to gain 4 points and finishing 5th. Daniel Ricciardo 6th. That was 3 points for him. Bottas gained a position for 7th, and Magnussen lost 4 for 8th, where he still gained a point. Magnussen and Alonso both lost 4th and 9th. Magnussen and Alonso both lost 4 positions. Magnussen gained a point. Alonso didn't gain anything. Schumacher gained 2 positions for 10th. Russell 11th. Tsunoda 12th, where he gained 4 positions. Vettel lost 4 for 13th. Lewis Hamilton lost a position for 14th. Stroll was 15th. Ocon gained 3 positions for 16th. Gasly stayed in the same position for 17th. Albon gained 2 positions for 18th. Latifi lost a position for 19th. And Guan Yu Zhou DNF, where he lost 6 positions as well. So, yeah. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. On to the overview then. Verstappen won the sprint. Charles Leclerc second, Sergio Perez third. Guan Yu Zhou and Pierre Gasly make costly contact at the start. The biggest gainers then, Carlos Sainz gained 6 positions from P10 to P4, Perez P7 to P3, and Tsunoda P16 to P12. Red Bull took P2 in the constructors ahead of Mercedes after the sprint. And onto the race. Make sure to go full screen if you want to read this. We will do in a moment. So, onto the race. Verstappen and Perez took a 1-2 for Red Bull. Perez gaining a position from the starting grid, with Verstappen also getting the fastest lap. Norris gained 2 positions for 3rd. Russell gained 7 positions for 4th. Bottas gained 2 positions for 5th. Leclerc lost 4 positions for a costly P6. Tsunoda gained 5 for P7, and Vettel also gained 5 for P8. Magnussen lost the position for 9th, and Lance Stroll gained 5 positions for 10th. Albon 7 positions for 11th. Gasly 5 positions for 12th. Hamilton gained a position for 13th. So Hamilton gained a position for 13th. Ocon gained 2 positions for 14th. Guan Yu Zhou gained 5 for 15th. Latifi gained 3 for 16th. Schumacher lost 7. Ricciardo lost 12 for 17th and 18th. Alonso and Sainz DNF'd. Alonso lost 10. Carlos Sainz lost a big 16. 16 there. So we will go on to some stats and facts about the race in a moment. But give me a second. So some stats for the race overview even. Verstappen wins in Imola with Perez second. Lando Norris gained a podium for McLaren. Carlos Sainz spun out on the first lap after contact with Ricciardo. Charles Leclerc recovers from a spin to come home 6th after running P3. On to some standings in a moment, but I will be back in a second. On to the driver standings then. Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc remained in first, with Verstappen gaining 4 positions up to 4th. Perez gained a position for 3rd. George Russell and Carlos Sainz lost 2 for 4th and 5th. Lando Norris gained 2 for 6th. Hamilton lost 2. Bottas gained 2 for 7th and 8th. Ocon lost 2 for 9th. Magnussen lost a position to 10th. Ricciardo remained in 11th. Tsunoda goes up to 12th, ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly, who went down to 13th. Vettel gained 7 positions for 14th. Alonso, Guan Yu Zhou, and Alex Albon all lost 1 position for 15th, 16th, and 17th. Lance Stroll remained in 18th. Mick Schumacher lost 2 for 19th. Nico Hulkenberg, even though he didn't race, he lost a position to 20th. And Nicholas Latifi, with only 20 drivers on the grid, is in 21st at the moment. On to the constructors then. Ferrari stayed in first. Red Bull gained second, ahead of Mercedes, and look at that gap between them after 1 race weekend, even though Mercedes were ahead before the weekend started. McLaren remaining 4th, Alfa Romeo in 5th, Alpine 6th, who lose 1. Alfa Romeo move ahead of Alpine. Alfa Tauri move ahead of Haas up to 7th. Haas in 8th. Aston Martin get off the bottom of the table ahead of Williams. So we're just going to get this down quickly. I'm just getting down my driver of the weekend and team of the weekend, which we will get onto after. Onto some other standings then. Grand Prix wins. Leclerc and Verstappen still the only 2, with Leclerc winning in Bahrain and Australia, Verstappen winning in Saudi Arabia and the Emilia Romagna. So that's 2 Grand Prix each. And 3 fastest lap awards. Leclerc had won every fastest lap before this Grand Prix, with Verstappen getting Emilia Romagna. So on to some other stats and facts then in a moment. Just give me a second. But first, the upgrades each team bought to this Grand Prix. Mercedes side pod, diffuser and rear corner, floor and rear corner for Red Bull, the beam wing for McLaren, the floor and the beam wing for Alpine, the halo side pod and floor for Aston Martin, and the floor and the front corner for Alpha Tauri. Verstappen and Sainz have taken new gearboxes following their retirements in Australia. They didn't receive a penalty. And drivers who have scored points at every round this year, there's only 2, Charles Leclerc and George Russell. And only 2 drivers are yet to score a point in 2022, Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi. Ferrari-powered teams, points after 4 rounds. Ferrari in 2021 from 60 to 124. Alfa Romeo from 0 to 25. And Haas from 0 to 15. On to the drivers then. Starting with the man who finished in P20, Carlos Sainz, in a moment. So Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Not that. We don't need that. We need Sainz stat. Give me a minute. Just getting rid of the stuff we don't need now. So Carlos Sainz stat. Retirements in 2020 and 21. He got 2. over 2 years. The first 4 rounds of 2022, he's got 2 as well. And he said after the sprint, a solid race, a solid day, ready to fight everyone tomorrow. So not the strongest of weekends for Carlos Sainz, was it? A DNF once again. And in Ferrari's home race, they struggled. They did, both drivers. But remaining in P1 was crucial. On to Fernando Alonso in the Alpine then. Another driver who DNF'd. Of course, not the strongest of weekends for him. That was the same as Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. He didn't have a good time. On to Mick Schumacher then. Mick Schumacher achieved his best ever starting grid position in the sprint. And with K-Mag in P8, Haas have their first double top 10 start since 2019. So, a strong qualifying, not a strong race though for Mick Schumacher, which was unfortunate. And next up, Nicholas Latifi. Them two, of course, are the only two not to get any points so far this season, and they've both been struggling, haven't they? So, it needs to improve and quickly for Nicholas Latifi. Guan Yu Zhou impressed at the start of the season. He's fell off a bit in P12, I believe he was. And then next up, Esteban Ocon. Not P12, sorry. 16 was that driver. So was Guan Yu Zhou. On to Esteban Ocon then in the Alpine. He had been handed a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release. Not a strong weekend once again for Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. And then Lewis Hamilton, he only got through to Q2 by 0.004 seconds. After the first 4 rounds of 2022, Lewis Hamilton has 28 points. This is his lowest points tally after the first 4 rounds since 2009. And his quote after the sprint, we're obviously not fighting for the championship, but we're fighting to understand the car. And he said after the race, let's keep working hard. Toto and Lewis reflect on a tough race. So then on to Pierre Gasly. Another tough weekend for him. P12 with his teammate getting into the points. It weren't a great weekend for him, was it? And then on to P11, Alex Albon. A good recovery. Of course, didn't set a lap in qualifying, which will have hurt his race, of course. And gain positions in the race. Lance Stroll got his first points of the season, and it's a double points finish by Aston Martin. With next up, a solid weekend for Lance Stroll, as we've said. Next up, Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. P4 finish is Haas best ever qualifying. It went downhill as the weekend got on, really, for Kevin Magnussen. A strong qualifying, lost a few positions in the race and the sprint. And then P8, Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. In Q3, both drivers. Sorry, Sebastian Vettel in Q3. Sebastian Vettel in Q3 for Aston Martin, a good result for him. Yuki Tsunoda next up in the sprint race, P16 to P12 in the race, P12 to P7. A very strong weekend for Yuki Tsunoda, gaining 9 positions throughout the weekend. And then P6 for Ferrari after his late spin was Charles Leclerc. He said after quali it was very tricky, especially on the slicks. There were quite a lot of wet patches, so it was all about putting the laps in. He also said after the sprint we struggled with the tyres at the end, so we need to analyse that for tomorrow. It's live, we will work and come back stronger. He tweeted after the race, I gave it all but went over the limit at the end. Sorry to the team and to all the tifosi that supports us. Instead of a P3, it ended up a P6. We will come back stronger. And he quoted after the race, he was too greedy. So it started well, of course, for Charles Leclerc. And in the race, some people said he bottled it. And it was not a strong weekend, to say the least, for Ferrari. On to Valtteri Bottas then. In the Alfa Romeo. In Bahrain, he was P6. He DNF'd in Saudi Arabia, P8 in Australia, and P5 in Italy. It's been a very solid start at Alfa Romeo. Valtteri Bottas in 4 rounds of 2022, 24 points. Alfa Romeo in 2020 and 2021 combined only got 21. So he's setting new heights for Alfa Romeo by himself, and he started there very well indeed. Next up then, on to P4, George Russell in the Mercedes. The top 5 in every race, the only driver to do that. With Bahrain, he was P4, Saudi Arabia P5, Australia P3, and Imola P4. And it was the first time he finished a race in Imola. 2020 he DNF'd, 2021 he DNF'd, but in 2022 he was 4th. George Russell P11 to P4. George Russell P11 to P4, elite start, outstanding drive, a very good drive, of course, for George Russell. And then on to P3 was Lando Norris. So about him, he said after quali, a good position for tomorrow. I'm happy we made the most of today and we had the opportunity to score some good points, where he got a podium, of course, a very good result for him and the team. He tweeted after the race, oh, hey, which he was very happy about, of course. He said after the race, an amazing weekend. I'm happy. Top job from the team. We've been able to capitalise on the tricky conditions. He was back on the podium. Bahrain, he was 15th. Saudi, he was 7th. Australia, he was 5th. And Italy, Imola, he was 3rd. So he's got 2 podiums in Imola now as well, in 2021 and 2022. And that's 3 podiums in a row in Italy. 2021 in Imola P3, Monza 2021 P2, and Imola 2022 he was P3 as well. So a very solid weekend for Lando Norris in the McLaren. And next up, on to P2, Sergio Perez in a moment. Just give me a second. Sergio Perez then in P2 in Imola. He said after the sprint, I think it was important to minimise qualifying from yesterday. Today we managed to recover, and I think we are in a great position for tomorrow. He tweeted after the race, great race, I'm really happy with a 1-2 for this great team. A very intense race in which making a mistake was too easy. See you in Miami. He quoted after the race, with these conditions, it was so tricky out there. So to get a 1-2 under these conditions is a great result for the team. So a solid weekend for Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. Next up then, and the race winner, of course, Max Verstappen. He stuck it on pole for sprint. He quoted after quali, it was tricky out there. It was very slippery. I'm very pleased with pole position. It's a good start to the weekend. He won the sprint race, of course. And he tweeted after the sprint race, P1 in the sprint and some good points for the team. We're well underway, but have to finish it all tomorrow. And he said after sprint, I think we were a bit better on our tyres at the end of the race. It was fast, pushing quite a bit. He says, very happy to have a clean sprint race at the end. I'm, of course, happy about today, but tomorrow other tyre compounds will come into play. Where he won the race, he tweeted after the race, yes, boys, winning here today caps off a perfect weekend for us. Very happy with the performance from the car and the team this weekend. So thank you to Red Bull for that. Good to see Checo coming in second. Let's build on this. He said we were on it as a team. We did everything well. I think this one too is deserved. Last 40 race finishes, including sprints. He's only finished first, second, third, sixth, and ninth. Never finished outside the points on his race finishes. Max Verstappen continues his streak of winning every race he has finished this season. And Max Verstappen now has more race victories than Kimi Räikkönen. So a very good weekend for him in the Red Bull as well. But next up, onto the constructors, starting with the team in P10, Williams. Neither driver in the points, not a great weekend for them. A superb weekend for Aston Martin now, who are now in P9 in the constructors. We've got to start on Aston Martin here. Sebastian Vettel P8, Lance Stroll P10, double points for Aston Martin. A great weekend. Next up then, Haas. They started well, but didn't finish great. So not a great weekend for them. Similar to AlphaTauri, Tsunoda was in the points though, which was a positive, of course. Alpine then, not the greatest of weekends for them. Alfa Romeo, the Bottas on very good form. Guan Yu Zhou not quite so. And then we have McLaren. McLaren will start tomorrow's sprint from P6, from P3 and P6. It was a very good, it weren't a great start, let's be honest, for McLaren in the season, and they've improved very much so. Mercedes remain in P3 due to George Russell's wonder show. Lewis Hamilton not doing great so far this season. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez 1-2. It doesn't get much better, does it? And Ferrari, they struggled. They did very much so far this season. So far this race weekend, sorry. So on to the driver of the weekend. I'm giving it to George Russell. I think he deserves that, gaining the most positions in the race. And the team of the weekend, I'm saying, is Red Bull. After the 1-2, it doesn't get much better, does it? So that's it for today's race reaction. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is the F1 channel, Hit the Apex. Dugout Daily is the football channel, and at MCFC Hibs on Twitter. So everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll speak to you all soon. Take care, and goodbye for now.